This is Liz. I am going to get us started since it's 5:30. Just want to welcome everybody, and before we officially start, we will share some instructions for how to select your interpretation channel. And so at this time, I will pass it to Diana to provide those instructions.
Thank you, Liz. Buenas tardes a todos y bienvenidos a la reunión. El día de hoy tenemos el servicio de interpretación de Zoom disponible para aquellas personas que lo requieran. Si se están conectando desde una computadora, en la parte de abajo del menú de Zoom van a ver un icono que parece un mundo que dice interpretación. Le hacen clic y seleccionan el idioma español y silenciar el audio original para que puedan escuchar una sola voz. Y si es que se está conectando desde una tableta o un dispositivo móvil, tienen que tocar su pantalla y buscar la opción de los tres puntos y encontrar la opción que dice interpretación o language interpretation. Seleccionamos nuevamente español, silenciar el audio original y al final le damos la opción de terminado, finalizado o listo. Si tienen algún problema para poder unirse, nos lo hacen saber por el chat para poder ayudarles. Ahora voy a dar las mismas instrucciones, pero en inglés. Hello everyone, today we'll have interpretation available for those who need it. If you're joining from a computer, at the bottom of the Zoom menu, you will see a word-like icon that says interpretation. You can select that and then you will select English. And if you're joining from a tablet, an iPad, or your phone, you can tap your screen, select the three dots, select language interpretation, and then select English. And at the end, you will choose finish or done. If you have any issues, please let us know in the chat so we can help you. Thank you. Gracias.
Thank you, Diana. This is Liz. So I will give us one moment as my colleague Amy finishes up the interpretation. So give me a thumbs up once that's ready. Are we good?
No, sorry. Apologies. This is Amy. Nancy, can you give me back permissions? I accidentally made you the host. You can just click on my box and you'll see three little dots on the top right-hand side and you can select make host. Thank you. Apologies for that.
Oh, you said just to click on the dots.
If you hover over Amy's box, her video box.
I got it.
Oh, okay. I'm like, I didn't see that.
Yeah,
Sorry about that.
It's okay. Thank you. All right, we are ready to go. Thanks everyone for bearing with us.
Thank you. Thank you again, everyone, for your patience. And it looks like our interpretation is set up. But as always, if you're having any issues at any point of the meeting, please do raise your hand or stop us or put your comment in the chat because we want to make sure everyone is able to engage and listen. We will move on with our housekeeping slides. We have our naming conventions here, and so these are very helpful for our stipend tracking and distribution process. So we ask our CSC members to put the letters CSC in your Zoom name. And for residents who are members of the stipend program, please also put the letter R in your name. And you may see one of our team members doing this throughout the night. For all other folks who are joining our meeting, if you are here representing an agency, we also ask that you put that in your Zoom name. And if you are here as a member of the public, please designate that with the letter P. And for everybody else, feel free to include your organization or anything else that would be helpful for us to know. Here we have our virtual meeting etiquette. We ask everyone to stay muted unless you are speaking. We also ask for folks to raise your Zoom hand if you have a question or comment. And if you are calling on the phone, to mute yourself, you can press *6. And to raise your Zoom hand, you can press *9. And just a reminder for residents in our stipend program, we ask that you stay on for 75% of our meeting together, so about an hour and a half. On this slide, we have our group agreements, the rules that we keep for productive discussion and respectful dialogue. We won't take the time to read through each one of these at our meeting tonight, but these are always a part of our meetings, and as your facilitators, we are trying to uphold these. On this slide, we have the agenda. We'll have our welcome in a moment, and then we'll have our usual action item tracker follow-up. Then we will hear an update from the California Air Resources Board, or CARB. Then we will move on to our 5 years of South Central Fresno CERP milestones presentation. Then we'll have time for standing updates, talk about some next steps and agenda setting, and then we will end with our final public comment. And so I'll stop sharing my screen for a moment and just want to welcome all of you again. My name is Liz from the Harder & Company facilitation team, joined here by my colleague Amy and also Laura. At this time, I would like to transition us to some opening remarks and invite Ryan from the Valley Air District to get us started and share some of your opening words. Take it away.
Great. Thanks a lot, Liz. Really appreciate it. Great to see everybody on tonight. Really appreciative of the CARB, the California Air Resources Board team that is here. Jennifer Magana, Eric Bissinger, Adriana Smith, and Jeremy Herbert. They spent a lot of time putting together, I think, a really good presentation with a lot of information that it will hopefully be very informative for everybody. I know it will be. Looking to also talk with you about some milestones that have been achieved, and just really want to thank everybody that is here tonight for all of your commitment to this the past 5 years. I know we've talked about it last month in the in-person, and we really couldn't have gotten to where we were without all the commitment from everybody. And speaking on behalf of Samir, and just really appreciate everyone that has been involved. And so with that, I know the partners with the Air Resources Board, have a pretty lengthy presentation, so definitely want to give them time to get through it all, and to also take any questions that any of you may have. So at this point, I'll turn it back over to you. Thanks a lot, Liz.
Thanks so much, Ryan. This is Liz. I just want to echo all of the appreciation for everyone who continues to show up, and also just say how enjoyable it was to get to see you all in person last month. And yes, we do have a couple of meaty, as some say, agenda items, so we can move along. Before we go along to the CARB update, we just have our action item tracker follow-up. We take the time at every meeting to do this to facilitate transparency and accountability, to make sure that the CSC is able to stay up to date with all of the progress being made towards your suggestions. So I'm going to pass it to Nancy, who is going to walk through some of those items, and we can have a couple minutes to see if there are any questions or clarification. Take it away, Nancy.
Thank you so much, Liz. This is Nancy. So I will be going over the action items. I did go ahead and provided the link in the comments in the chat. And so just in case anybody wants to follow along, let me go ahead and share my screen. Can everybody see that? Perfect. All right, so this is just a routine check-in on some of the action items from the last meeting. These action items are going to be from the in-person January CSC meeting. And so let's get started. The first category is going to be for the in progress. There we go. And so the first action item is in regards to the recent program expansion, which is for the Clean Air Rooms program. We did go ahead and provide you all with an update during the interactive portion of the presentation that we had. And so we also did want to take in suggestions from the CSC to see which facilities we can reach out to. And so the facilities included licensed childcare and elderly care facilities. And so all those suggestions have been incorporated into a spreadsheet that I created. And currently, the application is being finalized. And so as soon as that is done, we can begin conducting our outreach to licensed care facilities. The next action item is in regards to volunteer opportunities with Tree Fresno. And so once available, the district will share volunteer opportunities with CSC for tree planting events. And so these tree planting events are really fun and informational, educational. You learn a lot from the staff at with Tree Fresno. All right, so the next action item, this one is in regards to CARP. And so the district will save space for feedback on locations for peaks monitoring at a future meeting. And so CARB is here today to provide an update on peaks during this February CSC meeting, and will be available to take feedback on future locations. The next section will be under complete. And so this action item is in regards to as well the in-person CSC meeting. And so we did sort of do like a little homework assignment for CSC members. And this was to sign up two additional residents to the residential air filtration program. And so an email did go out with the meeting summary, which included the interactive presentation, as well as provided links for the clean air rooms and other residential incentive programs. And of course, if you ever want any physical flyers, physical copies, please let us know either through email or by a phone call, and I can go ahead and just drop our email and phone number that you can reach us at. The next action item is regarding the district will follow up with CSC on how to sign up for the City of Fresno's planning notices. And so there is an email where you can sign up to receive these planning notices, or you can also call this number 559-621-8277 for more information and more help. We also did have another action item regarding the City of Fresno. And so this is Greg from the City of Fresno will update the CSC on whether planning notices are available in other languages. And Greg did get back to us, and he did let us know that the City of Fresno's planning notices provide contact person in Spanish on how to get more information in Spanish. And then the last action item, the district will restart the urban greening subcommittee, and we can discuss further, about the tree species and which are eligible. And so right now we are currently working on the logistics to getting the subcommittee together. And of course, once we have a date finalized, you will all get an email as well as a calendar reminder with all the Zoom information and all the information for this subcommittee. And so that concludes the action items, and happy to take any questions. Go ahead and stop sharing my screen, and please let me know if you have any questions. And of course, if you don't want to ask your question right now, you can also just place that question in the chat.
Thank you, Nancy. This is Liz. I don't see anything in the chat and I don't see any hands raised. So I think maybe for now there are no questions, but as always, feel free to put that in the chat and we will make sure to come back to it. Oh, I see a hand from Bill.
It's a question that relates back to last month's meeting where we were discussing the fireplace replacements. In other words, it was said that there wasn't too much utilization of that particular incentive. And I've noticed that there's been advertisements on television regarding that. One alternative is if you replace the fireplace insert with a heat pump. And I think in the past, maybe a lot of people don't have a clear understanding of what a heat pump is. That's one thing. And then the second question part of the question I have is, I noticed on the federal IRA program, they offer like $8,000 depending on your income if you add a heat pump. So my question is, could you stack them? In other words, if you replaced your fireplace with a heat pump, could you qualify also for the federal incentive up to like 8,000 or whatever, depending on your income level? Because that would give you, considerably amount of more money to work with, to make that change. I don't know if that program is going away or not, but maybe some of the CARB people might know, or maybe or something. But I think that would, and then if people had a better understanding that a heat pump also takes care of your air conditioning. In other words, I'm thinking maybe some people, don't want to spend, $4,000, $5,000 or whatever it costs to replace the fireplace. And it's only good for, the winter months. Whereas if they had a better understanding that if you go with a mini split, that provides air conditioning and heating for your home for the entire year, it may make a significant difference in their decision to replace their fireplace, especially if you could get the whole thing paid for 100% by utilizing any other incentives that may or may not be available. That was all. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Sounds like you're very knowledgeable about this. Really appreciate your question. I think, Ryan, did you want to maybe very briefly give an answer?
Yeah, no, you did a great job of explaining how the heat pumps work, Bill. When we did the road shows, that was definitely one of the things that we wanted to highlight and wanted to share with community members, how the heat pump devices themselves work. You also touched on the federal funding and where that is right now. Historically, a lot of times you have been able to stack the funding from the different programs, whether it's state, federal, local. But I think where those funds are at right now for that, I think is a big question. And so that's something that we'll continue to monitor. And if more information comes out, we'll be sure to keep people updated on that.
Thank you, Ryan. This is Liz, and thank you, Bill, for the question. I see we have one more from Dr. Curry. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. A couple of months ago, we had spoken about the electric school buses for Fresno Unified, and I believe that it was February that we were going to get some idea of exactly which routes there might, that they would be covering, or at least what schools. So I'm wondering if that is now available. And the idea was that obviously they would be in the AB 617 area, but I was really interested in what the routes look like to make sure that they are addressing those folks who are the most impacted. So do we have that available to us now?
This is Liz. Thank you, Dr. Curry, for bringing that back to our group. I will see if maybe Ryan or Nancy, do you have any updates on that?
So, we are in communication with them. My understanding is they still don't have the buses, and my understanding right now is that they haven't established what those routes are going to be yet. I think it's going to be more towards the end of the school year. But we can follow up them to get that specific answer for you, Dr. Curry, and we can forward or send out an email update to everybody.
This is Liz. Thank you. So it sounds like we still don't have that information, but once we get that, the Air District will be sure to share that in one of these meetings and or email that out. Really appreciate you bringing that back up. Okay. So I don't see any other hands and nothing else in the chat. So maybe we can close out the action items and transition to our next agenda item. So for those of you who were at our CSC meeting last month, you may remember starting a conversation with CARB, where you shared some of the questions you have for their team regarding some of their statewide strategy, as well as their role with this work past the 5th year of SERP implementation. And so we have quite a few folks here from CARB tonight. They have a lot of important information to share. And so to get us started, I will pass it to Jennifer to introduce herself and her team and begin the presentation.
Thanks, Liz. Is somebody pulling up the presentation for us?
Hey, Jennifer, it's Nancy. I have the presentation ready for you.
Perfect. Go ahead. Thank you, Nancy. As Liz said, I am Jennifer Magana, your OCAP liaison. First and foremost, thank you for allowing us time on your agenda today. I know you've had a lot of topics to cover. And to take us back to this January in-person meeting, which I had the pleasure of attending alongside Megan from CARB. When you were asked what you would like to hear about from CARB, there were many great topics, a lot of valid concerns that were listed. And so the best approach that we could think of here was to summarize the work that we accomplished this past year in 2024. And we understand it will be a lot of information, as everyone and Ryan and Nancy had mentioned. So feel free to ask questions at any point. Go ahead, Nancy. Okay. So in addition to providing information on the various topics here today, there was an outstanding CARB action item that came from the November 2024 CSC meeting regarding post-year 5. And that was the question of what happens to South Central Fresno post-year 5 and what will CARB's role be? As Ryan mentioned earlier today, you'll see multiple CARB staff in attendance with me today, and they are additional liaisons from other sections within CARB that have worked with me behind the scenes throughout the years. So the answer here is you'll have all of our continued support to help this CSC fulfill the SERP commitments, and we will use Blueprint 2.0 as a guide to make sure that your SERP actions are met. So joining me today, we have your enforcement liaison, Eric. Unfortunately, your incentives liaison, Kyle, could not be here. So joining us today, we have Adriana. And lastly, your CARB strategies liaison, also known as our community assessment section, Jeremy. And all of us are always here available to help answer questions, concerns, and just help you get through the work ahead of you and any challenges that you may face. And so again, my point here is to just reiterate that you have our full commitment after year 5, year 6, and so forth. We're not going to be going anywhere. So to go over South Central Fresno's enforcement 2024 summary, I will go ahead and pass it up to Eric unless there's any questions regarding what post year 5 looks like.
Okay, next slide, I guess. Yeah, hi, I'm Eric Bissinger in the Enforcement Division at CARB. And in 2024, we deployed the portable emission acquisition system in May. And it was at Central Avenue and Golden State Boulevard, and we were there for 2 days. And during the deployment, we screened 475 heavy-duty vehicles and physically inspected 62 of them. 11 citations were written for violating the truck and bus regulation, operating, the vehicle with a malfunction indicator light on, or for failing to pass the onboard diagnostic test. Also, during the event, from the request of the CSC, the district joined us with their air monitoring van and measured the ambient air near the enforcement event. And also, I want to restate this again. If you have any locations that you're concerned about or areas where you're worried about like idling or too much, trucks, please give me locations and so we can, uh, you know, do the event in as many places as we can. So you can put that information in the chat or go ahead and email me. Next slide. So also in the enforcement and in my section, we administer the Supplemental Environmental Projects Program. And what that does is it diverts penalty funds from violators and uses the money to fund projects in communities. So if you have a project idea for your community, but you need funding, then please reach out to me for that also. And so currently we have these two set projects listed on this slide here. And these are in and around Fresno County. So now I'll pass the next slide to Adriana, unless there's questions for me.
I can go ahead and get started if there are no questions. My name is Adriana Smith, and I'm with CARB, with the Office of Community Air Protection. I'm with the Community Air Protection Incentives, and I work with Kyle Goff. Today, I want to go ahead and briefly provide an overview of the CAP Incentives Program, the CAP Incentives Guideline, and the Community Greening Project type that you want to learn more about. First, the CAP incentives, they come from the California legislature. So the money, the money is appropriated to CARB in an annual state budget. They also, the legislature, they also set the overarching requirements and restrictions, including the timelines for those funds. From there, CARB works with the California Air Pollution Control Officers Association to allocate and give out and grant the money to each local air district, including the San Joaquin Valley. Then the air districts prioritize which kinds of projects they'll be focusing their funds on, solicit for projects from potential applicants, and then they'll select, fund, and implement those projects. When implementing the CAP incentives, air districts, they must adhere to the Community Air Protection Incentive Guidelines. These guidelines contains guiding principles, the program administration requirements, and eligibility criteria for a wide variety of incentive categories that are available for use for air districts to use in the CAP incentives program. Recently, CARB staff worked with air districts and community representatives to update and expand the CAP incentive guidelines. The guidelines introduce new projects that communities can use and apply their funds to. Eligible project types that have been expanded, increasing the eligibility of the CAP incentives program and increasing benefits to communities statewide. Next slide, please. One of the new project types that was introduced in the 2024 CAP incentive guidelines is the community greening and vegetative barriers. This new project type was actually based on a previous community identified project plan from air districts, including the plan that was submitted by San Joaquin Valley called the Vegetative Barriers and Urban Greening Emission Reduction Program. This project, it's designed to promote the use of natural solutions to mitigate air quality impacts through projects like community greening and vegetative barriers. Community greening may include planting trees or vegetative barriers in the community to be able to reduce greenhouse gases and also provide several key other qualitative benefits like shade to sidewalks and streets, which can encourage active transportation and making it more comfortable for walking and biking in those areas. And then in turn, it improves the health and well-being of the community. Funding, it can cover up to 100% of the eligible project costs. And some of the specific criteria in this chapter for plants that are chosen includes some of the following characteristics, like the trees, the vegetation must be non-invasive. They must adhere to roadway safety conformity where applicable. They must maximize greenhouse gas reductions. They must be low biogenic, volatile, organic compound emitting, and minimize allergenic pollen. There are other parameters that air districts and participants should also consider where applicable, and those include that the vegetation be native species, that it's non-poisonous, that it be perennial, annual, or mixed, that it be drought resistant, that it adapts to the local site conditions, and also things like resisting to lodging and strong leaf retention, leaf surface, and pollution and stress resistance. So those are just some of the parameters that could be considered. So that ends my part of the presentation. I'll go ahead and open it up for questions. And if there are no questions, I can go ahead and pass it over to Jeremy to continue with the presentation. I was also going to mention that if you have questions or think of them later, you can place them in the chat and I can take a look at them that way as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Adriana. Next slide, please. Hi, my name's Jeremy Herbert, and I'm in the Office of Community Air Protection as well. Part of what my section does is looks at a lot of the reporting requirements of community emission reduction programs, as well as tracking all of the commitments of CARBs within your community emission reduction programs. And so over the next two slides is a list of all of the California Air Resources Board commitments within your CERP. I'm not going to necessarily go line by line, but as you look at this chart, you'll see all the regulations as well as any quantified benefits that's specific to your community itself. So the numbers that you see on the far right, those are specific emission benefits that are occurring within your AB 617 community. Some of the ones to highlight is the cargo handling equipment, commercial cooking suggested control measure, as well as the composite wood. Those regulations are in the process of being developed, and so we have regulatory teams at CARB that are continuing to work on those regulations. The catalytic converter theft reduction, we had multiple conversations with DTSC, CalRecycle, and several other agencies. And while there's a lot of interest in all three of our agencies on this, the authority to be able to regulate catalytic converter doesn't really fall within any of our agencies. And we found that it would require legislative support to be able to do anything with the catalytic converters. Next slide. And so again, these are some of the other regulations that are cited within your CERP. Most of these have been adopted. The ones that I'd like to call out in this, which kind of segues into the next slide, are the ones where there are asterisks. And so the drayage truck regulations amendment, after writing of your CERP, That regulation was renamed into the Advanced Clean Fleets Regulation, as well as at the very bottom, the Transportation Refrigeration Unit Regulation. Both of those, unfortunately, we were required to withdraw the waivers to the US EPA. And next slide. And so once our regulations are adopted by our board and sent to the Office of Administrative Law at the state, it really becomes a state law. But then, dependent upon the regulations, some regulations require us to reach out to the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency to get waivers to enforce these laws. And so, as you notice on the slides before, the advanced clean fleets and the transportation refrigeration units waivers were recalled. And so we've only recalled portions of those ones that require a waiver. Several of those regulations still has a lot of enforceable actions that we will continue to enforce. But ultimately, CARB is committed to reducing air pollution in your communities. We will seek any and all tools that we have to continue to enforce these rules. And in some situations, especially like with advanced clean fleets, we also have other tools that we're using to generate benefits within your community in regards to trucks. Some similar ones are we have a clean truck partnership where we have agreements with all the truck manufacturers to produce and sell cleaner trucks, cleaner than what is currently required in the regulation. And I believe one more slide. Next slide, please. So questions that come up, I believe in the last steering committee about some of the national ambient air quality standards that occur, the changes that occurred in the past year. And so last year, the US EPA actually strengthened the annual PM standard to the 9 microgram per meter cubed. What this really does is requires both CARB and the San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Control District to further reduce PM 2.5 emissions within the San Joaquin Valley. And while traditionally in most of these national NAAQS, the National Ambient Air Quality Standards, these standards typically have tiers such as moderate, severe, extreme, and the like. This strengthened standard that occurred last year does not have those tiered, and all non-attainment areas is either non-attainment or an attainment. And while it's called moderate, it requires all non-attainment areas to attain the standards within 6 years of designation. And that is the end of my slides. I'd be happy to answer any questions relating to anything that I covered on related to waivers, the NAAQS, or any of the regulations cited within the SERP. If not, I can pass it over to Jennifer to finish up the rest of the presentation.
Thanks, Jeremy. So having had 2024 summarized and some additional information, we certainly have goals for 2025. With regards to OCAP, we will continue to support the community steering committees throughout the state and the air districts as well in whatever capacity is needed. Enforcement will continue to deploy peaks and increase their SEP outreach. And again, if you have any ideas for projects or locations, feel free to send those over to me or to Eric, or forward them to your air district so they can send them out to us. And then our incentives team will partner with air districts and CSCs to support existing and new projects, additionally helping identify where incentives can help communities achieve their SERP goals. And last but not least, your CARB strategies team, Jeremy's section, will continue to track and report upcoming regulations to CSCs and continue to support community engagement on all of CARB's regulations. And next slide. So this concludes our presentation, and as always, please reach out if you have any questions or if you would like information on additional topics or more detailed information on anything that was presented today. You can also go through your Air District staff and have those questions or concerns forwarded to us as well. And my contact information is available here. I'm happy to take anything that comes up, English or Spanish. So to conclude here, I will be placing some links in the chat of some helpful CARB resources. And that is all for CARB. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Jennifer. Hi, this is Amy. Can you go back to your last slide as this is your closing slide? I want to make sure that we're setting the context here. So what I hear you saying is that these are the goals for this year. So I want to just like let the CSC members just kind of let this soak in for a moment because you kind of went over it really fast. And as we do that, invite the Air District to add any comments and kind of contextualize what's coming from CARB to some of the things that the Air District is doing. So I'll open it up to Ryan to add a few closing remarks for this section of the agenda item.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jennifer and Jeremy and Adriana and Eric for presenting. This was an important presentation because in the majority of our steering committee meetings, we're talking about the individual, the measures that were in the SERP that were mainly focused on the community measures and the district commitments, but a huge component of the emission reductions that were going to be achieved were directly through the California Air Resources Board regulations and through those regulations also enforcing the requirements. And so it was just really important to have CARB here and to share that information with you. I know it was a lot of information covered pretty quickly, but some of the key things are just the tremendous amount of emission reductions from, for example, the heavy duty truck inspection and maintenance program. This is the program that requires operators to maintain their vehicles and required equipment in the trucks. And as Eric talked about through their enforcement initiatives in the South Central Fresno, based on the specific recommendations from the steering committee, they actually went out and the takeaway was they did find violations, but even more importantly, much more than 90+% of the, or roughly 90% of the trucks that they saw complied. And that's important information is that I think the majority of the businesses are trying to comply with the requirements, are doing the right thing. And then they through normal enforcement initiatives, there usually is some level of noncompliance, and in those cases, you work with those operators to fix the problems as quickly as possible and get the expected emission reductions. And so I think it was really good story about how the state agency CARB worked through the community steering process to identify the areas of concern, did focused enforcement on that, and confirmed high compliance, but at the same time worked with people to bring the non-compliance into compliance. And so that piece, and then just the overall emission reductions from the regulatory efforts at the state level greatly benefited the community. And while it's not something you can always see with your eyes, the improvements in the air quality directly in the community, hopefully it's more reflective in the it'll show up more in data and information that is going to start coming out in regards to health impacts and improvements as a result of the combination of all the different measures that are going on. So exciting news to see that level of emission reductions that are happening as a result of those efforts, and looking forward to CARB staff coming back and continuing to share information of things that are going on at the state level. Also want to thank them. Adriana touched on the community identified projects and how CARB took community feedback and made updates to the guidelines. which basically establishes statewide how incentive funds can be spent. A lot of that was based on the community feedback, especially in looking at some of the changes. It was very apparent that they heard the voices from the Central Valley and the South Central, Fresno, Shafter, Arvin, Lamont, and Stockton communities, and by incorporating specific measures that were initially incorporated into the specific community emission reduction programs and seeing how beneficial those programs really were. I know they highlighted the community greening, and I'm going to touch on that later on in my presentation, but that is also very encouraging, and it shows how state, local governments are working together to listen to communities and prioritizing community needs. And so, hopefully everybody got that from the presentation, and it's encouraging for the future.
Thank you, Ryan. Oh, this is Liz. I just wanted to say that we have about 14 minutes left for this item, and that means we have some additional time for questions and discussion with our CARB representatives. And I know this is normally a pretty talkative group, and so I'm a little curious if folks are holding back, or really what's on your mind? What questions do you have? Did you hope that there was going to be some information that wasn't presented tonight, or what's coming up for you all? This is Liz. I always like to pause a little long. I'm sorry if it's a little awkward, but I know some folks like a little extra time to think.
Maybe it's I know like everybody's waiting for this giant rainstorm to come in, and so just the anticipation of that is drawing a little away from everything else, but
That's right. We have a lot. This is Amy. Have a lot going on. So if you think of other questions that you have, as the CARB team has shared, please do put them in the chat or raise your hand. And of course, if you have some action items, meaning maybe you would like to have other things presented from CARB for our next meeting in May, please feel free to put those in the chat as well, so that we can document those and coordinate inviting CARB back to your meeting. So maybe we can transition to our next item. This is Amy again. So we'll go ahead and transition to our next item on the agenda. And as you may have seen on the agenda that was made public, we are now going to transition to providing some space for the Air District to provide an overview of the last 5 years of the efforts that have happened here in the South Central Fresno area, specifically regarding some of those CERT milestones. So during that presentation, you'll hear directly from Ryan and the team about some of those big achievements that were met. This is the moment to take a retrospective look on all of the achievements, and also to be mindful about what is still left to achieve, especially as we think about how to continue to sustain the momentum that you all have created, continue to sustain the collaboration that this group has, and to really put our minds together to figure out how to continue to do this work in a collaborative way. So with that said, I'm going to pass it to Ryan to kick us off.
thanks, Dr. Ramos. Appreciate it. Let me share my screen. Everybody sees it, right? All right. Did it correctly. Chat up in case I get any chat questions. Yeah, 5 years. I can remember when this community was first selected and the initial work. There was a lot of sitting around, scratching our heads, like thinking, how are we going to do this? This is a massive, massive undertaking, a first of its kind, really anywhere in the world, and it seemed very daunting and it seemed challenging. The kind of things that were being looked at and were being asked of us all was extremely new, and we forged a path with the community, and there were a lot of bumps in the road along the way. It was not a smooth process by any means, but what I can say is what we saw a tremendous commitment from all of you, the community steering committee members, a lot of understanding, and as bumps were hit, and we needed to do learning together to get to where we are today. This is not a moment where we're celebrating we've accomplished everything that we set out to. It's really just trying to focus in on what we've been able to achieve together, and then that understanding that we still have quite a bit to do together. And so, but want to definitely started off with just a huge outpouring of appreciation to all of you. So on the left is the first meeting that was held at Bang Pao Elementary School. And it seems like yesterday that we were there in that meeting, and just kind of covering a lot of information, a lot of material. We had a lot of people that were excited for the process, thought it was way overdue to have a process where community had a greater role in helping to drive action to improve air quality in communities. Wanting to work with agencies to help them in those efforts. And if you're looking in this picture, there's definitely a few people that that are continue to be here. I know I see Dr. Curry in the front row, which was usual, as well as Naomi Martinez. And so there's a lot of people that were in those initial meetings that are still participating and still heavily involved. And then 5 years later, having the opportunity to get together in person and continue this conversation and continuing to move all these measures forward is just, it's great to see. So it's been 72 meetings. That's, a lot over the 5 years. And that's, actual community steering committee meetings. That's not including the subcommittee meetings that so many of you attended, or the agenda setting meetings that we used to hold every month, which would greatly add to those numbers that you're seeing. Just in community steering committee meetings, this number is less than 2. It's definitely more than 144 hours of time and commitment. It doesn't take into consideration the time that you're taking reviewing the materials that get sent out and talking with your neighbors and your family members and your community members about this program and what it can mean for them. So we know that this is an underrepresentation of all the work that you've put into helping to make this program succeed. And then obviously it's been 5 years since it started. That was in the legal language, that was the time frame set up for this initial implementation process. But thankfully, we've been able to work with everybody to continue this, to see the community mission reduction measures fully achieved. So just kind of recapping the in-person January meeting and some of the homework assignments that you had, and hopefully you were very successful in this endeavor in trying to get your fellow residents to sign up for the program for the clean air rooms, as well as sharing the flyers for the incentive measures. This is this is why we've been able to get as much accomplished in the community as we have. It was really through your efforts and making those connections with people in the community and making them aware of it. I think in the beginning with the air purifiers, we saw a very slow kind of rollout. And I think it was one of those situations where until people actually saw people that had the units, and it's like it almost seemed like it can't be real. But then I think once people started seeing it, that's when it started building momentum, and we started seeing more and more interest. And so that was exciting for us because we know every time that someone gets one of these air purifiers in their home, if you have a loved one with breathing issues, asthma, other issues, knowing that like these devices can prevent episodes from happening. And so it's we're very gratified working in an agency where we're able to work with you to get those in and hopefully protect people. Let me try this double. Let's see if this works. Did everybody see that? Okay. This was the first in-person event, and it seemed like a long time ago.
AB 617. Part of this AB 617 effort, one of the measures to help clean air quality is to exchange gas.
This is Amy. Are you trying to have the audio come in?
What's that? You can't hear?
It sounds a little muffled to me. I don't know if the translation team can hear that. Are you going to play it in English and in Spanish?
I need to find the link for the Spanish version. I'm going to verbally talk about it, if that works.
Yeah, so if you go ahead and hit mute on there, and then you can talk about it and put the links to the YouTube,
Okay.
and then people can watch it later.
That's a wonderful idea. So let me mute this. So this was kind of taking us back to the in-person, and I know I saw a lot of the CSC members attend this event, and it was the first one that had been done anywhere like this, and it was really listening to the community in regards to, we had a program before, but one of the things we heard is that people didn't have the ability to, maybe purchase the unit upfront, because it was a rebate program initially. And so the other challenge was then for them to take the old device to a scrapyard posed a lot of challenges for people. And so in working with the community steering committee, we developed this new process where people would just drive up their car, they would drop off their old one and drive off with a brand new one. And we're just seeing so much success with that. And there's tremendous benefits from these types of programs because one lawnmower for an old lawnmower, for example, in an hour's time produces the same emissions as a car like driving from Fresno to Las Vegas. And so, but instead of spreading out those emissions all over the place, it's just right there in that neighborhood. And so, I mean, on a Sunday or Saturday morning, when people are out doing their lawn care, I mean that can lead to a lot of emissions being generated right there in those small areas. So to date, we've done 3 lawnmower exchange events, and we've exchanged over 1,100 gas-powered lawnmowers for electric models. And so, like I said, that's a huge in this relatively small area to be able to get that many old dirty lawnmowers out and exchange it with electric ones is exciting. And hopefully you've heard positive feedback from the people that have transitioned to those newer electric ones. So in November, we did the passenger vehicle repair tune and tune-up event. It was the first one using the 8617 model. That was a really well-attended event. We had, I've got the numbers right here. We had almost 400 vehicles attend or participate, and then 431 lawnmowers were given out. So for to put that in context, the first lawnmower event we did in Fresno, it was about 150 lawnmowers that were given away. So definitely learned a lot over time, how to streamline that, how to be able to get more people lawnmowers. And so, yeah, hitting 431 is a really big accomplishment. The Clean Air Rooms program, I talked about a lot about it, and how important those devices are. I can play the video, and I can. So one of the things that we definitely found are in regards to getting these out was doing these in person. Like I said, having people see it and witness it firsthand, like getting a real device. And a lot of us get things in the mail or flyers about free things, but a lot of times there's catches to them. There's things, and so a lot of times people probably don't participate. But there's no strings attached to this program. It is what it appears. It's a free air filter for people living in the South Central Fresno community. And so, the fact that we've been able to get over 2,500 units out to people is exciting, but we still have a lot of work to do. There's still a lot of units remaining, a lot of units that are available to protect people. So let's not stop now. We're definitely going to continue to be out in the communities and making people aware of it. But you do the same if you're out. And I know Lilia is here tonight, and she's definitely one of the biggest proponents getting out there in the community and making them aware of this, and probably giving them a hard time if they haven't already participated, which is greatly appreciated.
Ryan, Dr. Curry is wondering if you can remind us how to sign people up.
Absolutely. Nancy, can you drop the links and Nancy's on it. Like I said, it always takes a team. Another thing that was very exciting was the urban greening and vegetative barriers. And the partnerships that were formed with Tree Fresno and the Central California Environmental Justice Network and the City of Fresno and other people that, businesses in the community that have taken advantage of this program to put trees in where they're needed. It's not with the urban greening, it's about having shade. It actually more trees that you have in the community actually lowers surface temperatures, which is beneficial for the people living in those areas. Can hopefully help reduce maybe some of the air conditioning needs and other things that are costly, especially now. In addition to when you're thinking about vegetative barriers, those act as when winds blow dirt, these barriers trap it, because it focuses on very specific types of vegetation that are shown to be very effective at trapping small particulate particles. And which, every particle that gets caught in there is potentially one that you're not breathing in. And so, there's health benefits to that. And so, see a lot of people in these pictures, and a lot of them are people that live in the community, helping to make their community better. And so it's another program very excited about, very appreciative for. This one got off to a little bit of a later start, but we've just seen so much interest and so many people participating in it, which is the passenger vehicle replacement program. We've already been able to reallocate funding to continue to support more people getting into hybrid and electric vehicles, from older gas burning vehicles. So it takes a lot of time and effort to run this type of program, but it means a lot. It's same kind of concept as the air purifiers in people's homes. When people are starting to see their neighbors get into an electric vehicle, and they ask them about it, they're talking about the benefits. Well, I'm saving in gas, and I'm saving on repairs and maintenance and these different types of things. And I'm able to get everywhere I need, and I don't have to worry about it. And the more that gets communicated and the benefits get communicated, I think next time people are thinking about vehicles, an electric option is much more realistic. And so it plays an important role in changing the mindset that people have in regards to looking to switch into one of these types of vehicles. I can't say it enough. Outreach, outreach, outreach. And it is so important. And we've gotten such good response from CSC members and residents about where we should be, what opportunities exist for us to visit and to take the information about AB 617 and the South Central Fresno Community Emission Reduction Program and all the incentive measures, the enforcement that's going on, the rule development that is going to benefit the health. And so, yeah, I mean, you see a lot of smiling faces in there. The people that get to work in this program, Song and her team, there's a lot of gratification in being able to get out there and to really help people where it's really needed. And people have shown so much interest in learning and also wanting to share that information out further. And on the left, I don't know if there is anything more important than educating our youth and being there and helping them to understand what's going on in their world and in their atmosphere and the air that they breathe, and seeing kids excited about it and interested, yeah, means a lot. Initially, when we were getting together and kind of mapping out what an air monitoring network would look like, Fresno's was one of the first ones we were able to fully implement and deploy the different pieces of air monitoring. And it was a lot of work with the community on, how do we share this information out with the community? How do we make the information accessible, in different ways, and getting constant feedback on the presentations that we were putting together to share out with communities. How do we make the information more understandable, more relatable to the people? We're not generating this information for Air District people. We're not generating this information for the California Air Resources Board. We were putting this information together for residents and community members and community-based organizations to share information about what was happening in the air quality in the community. And we're continuing to do that work, and we'll continue to do that work. So this is kind of the crux of it. When we were talking initially about the community emission reductions program, it was about protecting public health, getting emission reductions, with the understanding that getting those emission reductions are going to ultimately lead to better health outcomes. And so, we've shown this diagram, several times, and it's just, there's been a lot of emission reductions that are happening right in the communities. A lot of benefits. And so that's, I look at this and, I see the bars and everything else, but, in my mind, what I'm thinking about is it's, hopefully, a child growing up healthier, a loved one living longer, those types of things. That's what I equate to those emission reductions. And so, I always wanted to, kind of go back to that. So next steps, we've talked about this in general, and really thank everybody for considering and sharing feedback on what it looks like as we kind of transition into the next phase of the program for South Central Fresno. And so we are transitioning to quarterly CSC meetings. We're going to provide information about how progress is going. As information continues to come out that impacts the communities, we will continue to share out information with the community. And so it's not just, we're only going to okay, see you in 3 months. There'll be continued communication with the community, because you are such a valuable resource for us in helping to share out, like I said, really important information. And, we value you as a partner in that effort. And so you definitely have our commitment ongoing to do that. We, as need comes, Nancy talked about getting back together on the Urban Green Vegetative Barrier Subcommittee. We will continue to consider those moving forward. And so with that, the first quarterly meeting is scheduled for May 14th. And so definitely look forward to seeing all of you there. And at this point, I'll end my presentation and take anybody's questions if anybody has any. I don't think I thank people enough, but I'll thank once again. Thank you so much for everything that you've done.
Thank you, Ryan. It looks like Lilia has a question. Go ahead, Lilia.
Sí, buenas noches a
Yes,
todos.
good evening, everyone. I would like to invite the community who is behind the screen to take advantage of the fabulous translators that we have. That way we can understand what we want to give people. Thank you, Ryan, because we are sending all the papers that you're sending us. We are always giving them in the food baskets. Sadly, when they're giving those lawnmowers, people think that they're not going to use them, but now theirs are going bad. They're asking for those funds, and I have been in contact with Marisela because we have residents that want those funds, because sadly their lawnmower doesn't work anymore, and we are trying to take care of the environment, and with the all the money that you're offering, we can take care of the environment because it's a battery. So hopefully we don't finish those funds, because it's helping the community. And me personally, the lawnmower that I have, even though it's from the organization, sometimes I use it here, and it's the same thing, because I already finished my two lawnmowers. They broke, and I even asked for funds for me so I can buy one for myself, but I haven't had the opportunity yet, because we have the one from the organization that we were using. But at the same time, we can invite the community that's behind us and all the people who signed up, so the community can come, and we have to take advantage the fabulous team of translators to take advantage of them at this moment. So please raise your voice. Don't stay quiet, because if we stay quiet, we're not going to get anything. We have to continue working for our environment. And if we have all those all that money, and we have all the funds, we have to take advantage, and we have to communicate what's happening. And we will continue with the food distribution, and we will have the next event for Valentine's. It's the 19th of this month, and also we will have the recognition of the women in March. But I'll be sending you the flyers and all the papers, and we will be gladly sharing them to you. And we're working very close with two schools right now, and they're asking for a lot of information. We have Sequoia Middle School in Winchell that it's opening the door, and they're asking the information and flyers to share with the community, and mainly if there are resources for them that are free. So we are available here all the time.
Thank you so much, Lilia, for giving us that motivational and encouragement approach that we all need to hear in this moment when, community is what will get us through this next phase of work. Any other questions or comments? I see Nancy has put a link on the chat that you can click on so that you can see some of the rebates and those grants for the lawn equipment. Thank you, Nancy. I'm not seeing any hands raised right now. It doesn't mean that you don't have questions. So I'll let those questions come to mind.
Última pregunta, ahorita por el momento.
Last question at the moment. All the links that you are putting, can you send them through text? Because sometimes it gets complicated because I'm not so good with technology. And if I do that, it takes me away from the Zoom screen. So can you please send it to us by text? That would be fabulous for us, please. Thank you.
Yes, of course. So we'll make that an action item so that we can send the links to resources, not only for the lawn equipment, but for the other resources that were put on the chat through the app that you all get communication through. And Lilia, since we're talking about the chat, I just want to elevate a comment that we got from Tanya from our amazing Linguistica team, giving you the thanks for your beautiful words that you shared. Lots of gratitude for our translation team, indeed. Look at that, Lilia. I don't even know how to do that. I thought you weren't technology savvy over there. I love it. Okay, well, I'm not seeing
Es algo nuevo que salió en mi computadora.
That's something new that I have in my computer. I have been working with this for days, and I was just looking at the hearts. It was just one heart, and it will stay there. And I was like, "What is there something else?" I was in a meeting, a national meeting, and I clicked the heart, and I thought that was the same one. And they were asking me, "How did you do that?" I don't even know. I just clicked something there, and the hearts came out. But I love them.
I love it. Thank you so much. Okay, well, at this time, we're going to transition to our general standing items. So this is an opportunity that we've always had on the agenda. It is a space to encourage collaboration amongst partner agencies, amongst state agencies, and other folks that are here at these monthly meetings. It is a time to hear from what's happening in your community from various agencies and from your CSC team members or colleagues. So to kick us off, I'm going to pass it to the Air District, and I welcome Zong to provide us an update about what's happening with the outreach.
Thank you so much, Amy. Can you guys hear me okay?
Perfectly.
Oh, wonderful. Good evening, everyone. Just wanted to give everyone a quick update on some of the things that we've been doing in the Fresno CSE area. Last month, we went out and dropped off calendars, and quick reminder on these new 2025 calendars. These are calendar that are made up of artwork from kiddos from throughout the valley. So we're always looking for entries. If the artwork is selected, students can win up to $100 scholarship. The cover artist will get $500. So please send any artwork, and these artwork highlight different ways that kids as well as families can encourage air quality or air resources, as well as things like walking to school, riding your bike to school. So these are ways that they can encourage improving air quality in the valley. So some of the calendar places that we dropped off was like at Heaton, Jefferson, Lincoln, Vang Pao, Kawa, Orange Center, King. We went to a variety of places, including like Mosqueda, the Mosqueda Library. And when we were out at a lot of these schools, we also checked to see if they had no idling signs, and if they were a little rugged, a little faded, a little damaged, then we offered the schools some new idling signs. And if you're at a school, or if you're visiting a school and you see that they have no idling signs that need to be replaced, please let us know. We have plenty to give out, and they are available in English and Spanish. They're metal, so they can be posted along the fence. And, since we have plenty to go around, they can post them at different locations. So a number of the schools asked for 2 sets, and that was totally fine. So if you know of any schools, please let us know and we'll drop them off. Again, these are free, no idling signs for the elementary schools as well as middle schools and high schools. And some of the outreach events that we've been going to, including one yesterday, we were out at Edison. We were at their family engagement event that was hosted by the parent university. There were like hundreds of parents and kids out there. They drew from the elementary schools that were feeder schools. So it was wonderful and exciting to see so many parents there, as well as kids. And we shared information about our different programs, and we helped sign up parents for our Clean Air Rooms program. So if they had information like either their driver's license or anything with their address on it, so that we can include that in the application. Then we had tablets there, and we signed them up for their for free air purifiers that can be mailed to them, as well as other resources that we have available, including the app, as well as the Clean Green Yard Machine program. So all of the info was there, and it was wonderful to see everyone out there, even though it was a little bit cold and cloudy. It was wonderful to get out there and just, be amongst all that energy. And there's a lot of music and good food. So we're always looking for events. So please share any events at schools or in the community with us. I will drop my info in a little bit here. So you're welcome to forward anything that you feel that would be important for the Air District to know about. Please send it our way, and we'll try to make it out there if we can. And later on this month, on the 28th, we'll be at a coffee hour at Lowell Elementary School. So we'll be providing some information during a presentation to parents as well. And this will be actually bilingual presentation in English and Spanish for parents. And again, this is, an opportunity, a presentation that we also, provide for all the schools if we can get out there. So if at some of your schools, they offer coffee hours every month, please let us know. We can definitely reach out and see if we can find a date that will work for us in the school. And then in March, we will be at the Literacy Night in Malaga, at Malaga Elementary. So that's what we have so far on our outreach calendar. But again, please let us know if you have any upcoming events in the community or at your schools. Otherwise, that's it for my update.
Thank you, Song. This is Amy. And Estela had a question about how can children participate? And what I'm hearing you say is that there are community events that are open for children to participate. Are there other ways for Estela to have children participate in these events?
So some of these events might be a little bit closed, like for instance, the Edison one, that one's probably in particular for the feeder school. So if their kiddos go to like Sunset or like that, then they were already invited to attend that event. And then for the Malaga Literacy Night, then that one would be targeting specifically the kiddos at Malaga. But if there are community events, then for sure those that are open to to all residents, then we'll list those on our outreach calendar, and those are open for any families and residents that want to attend those. Those tend to be free, but we'll note that on our outreach calendar. So if you know of any events that are coming up, that you want to share with the community as well, please let us know. We can post it to our outreach events tracker, and then Nancy can probably also share that information if it's public and open to the public. That's definitely something we can check into and make it available if that's something more residents want to know about.
Perfect. Thank you, Zong. And how would residents and other community members access this calendar?
Oh, sure.
Put it on the chat?
I can definitely drop it in the chat, and that way everyone can access it whenever they want.
Great. Well, I recommend if you don't have the calendar bookmarked, that would be a good time to click on that link and bookmark the link to the outreach calendar. Thank you, Zong. This is Amy again. So as part of these updates, as you know, we invite community partners and anyone working on any kind of initiatives that might impact the South Central Fresno community. I do see that the city of Fresno is here tonight, so I'd love to invite Kelly to provide any updates from the city of Fresno.
Hi there, can you hear me okay?
Yes, welcome. Thank you, Kelly.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for having me. Kind of new to attending these meetings. I don't have any updates, but I'm here to answer any questions that anybody might have.
This is Amy. So I'm not hearing any specific updates from the city of Fresno, but we are operating this CSC in the city of Fresno. So wondering if CSC members at this time have any questions that you might want answered by the city of Fresno, or maybe some action items for them to return with answers to our next meeting.
No sé si venga el caso ahorita.
I don't know if this counts. This is going to be me again. I'm sorry. I don't know if this counts right now, but 2 weeks ago here on the 8th Street, 8th and Love, and I think Mountain Way, the city came and they were cutting the trees, but they were cutting a lot of trees and they only left the trunks. So we have to find a way to support the community, because the community is telling me it's going to be hot and we don't have trees. Go talk to the city and put a complaint, because they didn't have to cut the trees. I know they're dry. I know in this season all the trees are dry. Why are they cutting them if they're giving a beautiful shade during the summer? So we have to see how we can plant more trees, and maybe they can just cut the trunks because they look really bad and they're in a bad position, because kids walk to the school and to home. So we have to see how we can support that community, because we don't want them to cut the trees. We want more trees not to be cut off.
So I apologize. I don't speak Spanish, and I didn't get any kind of a translation. I'm sorry.
Oh no, Kelly, it sounds like you're not in the translation channel. So under the little icon on your Zoom screen, you should be able to manage your language. Select the language that you would like to hear the meeting in.
Okay, and I joined a little late, so I apologize.
Yeah, so we have simultaneous translation happening in all of our meetings.
Okay. I apologize. I just found it and switched it to English, so I do apologize. I don't know if she can repeat the question or if someone can help me with the translation.
So I didn't catch the actual intersection, Lilia. Sorry to make you repeat yourself. So if you can tell us where these trees were cut once again, I'm so sorry. And then we can ask that question for the team.
No. Ya saben que yo me las pinto solas para
I can do it again. I can repeat everything again. Don't worry. The 8th Street and Love Street and Mountain Way Street, on the 8th Street, the city came and cut off the trees, but they also took some trees from the root. Well, not the root, but they just left the trunk. So the residents were talking to me about this, how they can do so the city can come back and plant more trees. And I told them, I don't know, but we maybe call you on this, because they were cutting the trees because they're dry. They're not dry. In this season, all all the trees lose their leaves. So the ladies were telling me, well, these trees green during summer, but all the trees were dry. Why were they cutting them? And also they're in the area where children walk from school and from home, and they have some roots that are very bad, and they can just fall if they can hurt themselves in one of those pieces. So we want more trees, as I said at the beginning. We want more trees. We don't want the trees to be cut off, and that's what I wanted to repeat. I don't know if I missed something.
Gracias. All right, thank you.
Perfect, thank you.
Kelly, so the request there is, I'm also hearing two things. So there's like a process. So I don't know if you have recommendations for how to proceed with these types of complaints, and then any actions and next steps that you could recommend.
Yeah, I can follow up with our Public Works Department. I wanted to make sure, though, I didn't quite hear the intersections we're talking about. I heard H Street or 8th Street, and I just want to make sure I know exactly the location of the trees at issue so that I can follow up.
Exactamente. Okay, exactamente la calle son las
Exactly, it's the Low, Alta, and Mountain Way, but it's on number 8 Street.
Okay.
Otra de las cosas que ya les dije yo,
another thing that I've mentioned is that I requested they also cut the only tree that I had outside my house. The problem is that, well, they removed the tree anyways, and I live on a corner where I could get up to 6 trees. So I have no trees. So I'm in front of 2 schools, and I have requested the city. They said if I want to have trees planted, to let them know, and I did, but it's like 6 months and I haven't got any answer. So if you have any trees for me, I can adopt one with all the love that I have, because I need trees in my area. There are many children, especially when it's hard weather. Many children are outside the school waiting for their moms to pick them up. So I think it would be good to have like a little bit of trees to provide some shade for them.
Okay. Okay, yeah, I got all that, and I will look into that. Is there any way you could put the street intersection in the chat, just so I can make sure, because I'm not familiar with the streets that you mentioned. You said 8th Street, and I know where 8th Street is, but I just want to make sure that I know exactly the intersection you're talking about. You said Low Street or Low Alta, Low. I just want to make sure I know exactly where you what the location is you're speaking of. Can you put that in the chat, and we can get back to you? And then do I just email it to someone, the updates?
Yeah, we can so we'll turn this, what will happen, Kelly, I'm glad that you asked, because this is your first time here. So what we'll do is turn this into an action item. And I don't know if you joined at the beginning of the meeting when we went through the action items. So there is an accountability process where we, ask that the folks that were requested to follow up have some updates at the next meeting. Okay. So we'll put this as an action item and get those streets for you. I heard 8th Street and an intersection with Alta, and an intersection, various intersections. So we'll get those details from Lilia to include. And then if you could follow up with the Air District, and maybe we'll make it an action item, Nancy, for someone from the Air District to follow up directly with you if there's more specificity that Lilia can provide. And the second action item that I'm hearing also is about how do residents who have lost their trees follow up with the city of Fresno to be part of receiving new trees in their neighborhood. I don't know if we have an answer for that now, or if we can also turn that into an action item.
Yeah, I'll get that answer for you. So please do turn it into an action item.
So Lilia, gracias. Thank you, Lilia. So Lilia just went ahead and put that in the chat, and you'll see that she has the exact intersections there for you. And so we'll make sure to also put that in the public action items.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. All right, any other agencies or organizations have any updates that you'd like to share during this time? Any other questions for Kelly, City of Fresno? And Kelly, just want to bring your attention that Lilia also put in the second intersection there for you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Lilia. Okay, well, at this time, we're going to go ahead and transition to our next steps. So as part of our wrap up, as Brian mentioned earlier, we are transitioning to a quarterly meeting schedule. That means that our next meeting will not be until Wednesday, May 14th. So it'll be on the same Zoom channel and it'll be the same settings. And so you should already have that invite in your calendar. So for those of you who are set up to receive the invites, you'll see the meeting request in the same way. All of that will remain the same. It's just that the meeting cadence is now changing. So we do have a little bit of time, so want to make sure that we share our screen, Liz, to just have a reminder of when those meetings are. In addition to that, would love to open it up for public comment.
Otra vez yo.
Bienvenida.
Perdón. Cuando entregan los
Again, me.
certificados de los
When you give the car certificate, do you follow up to see if they are fixing their vehicles, if there is a monitoring? Because I've heard from people that their cars do not work anymore. And they just keep the certificate that they pass the smoke test. That's what I'm asking, if there is like a follow-up that you do, or there is any type of monitoring, like after you give them the certificate. Is something there is just a question. Those are questions that I've been asked, and that's why I'm asking you.
Go ahead, Ryan.
Yes, thank you, Lily. Yes, we do follow up on those. So once we do give the vouchers for people to get those repairs, yeah, we do follow up and see if the repairs are being made.
Gracias, Ryan.
Thank you, Ryan.
Any other comments? This is the time for public comment.
Les dejo para las compañeras que no han hablado si quieren expresar algo también. También quiero decirles que Estela me estaba
I also want to tell you that
semana
Estela
pasada
mentioned me in the
ellos
previous
están
meeting
cuidando un
that
jardín comunitario.
they
Qué
are
lindo,
taking care of a
qué
community
bonito. Y eso
garden,
es
which is
lo que
something
dijo
really
Estela, que quería
nice.
buscar
And
lugares
that's what
donde llevar a
Estela
sus
wanted to
niños.
find
Yo
places
no
where to
sabía
bring
que
her
Naomi tenía un
children.
jardín
I didn't
comunitario.
know that
Y
Naomi
así
had a
solamente
community
hablando conocí,
garden.
¿verdad?, de las cosas que
And
hay en
when
sus
we were
comunidades.
talking, I
Entonces,
found out about these
gracias por
things.
compartir,
So
Estela.
thank
Y
you
pues
for
no sé si te
sharing,
gustaría
Estela.
compartir algo de lo que
And
estás
I
haciendo
don't know
con tus
if you
niños.
would like
Principalmente,
to share
el
something
cuidar
that
el
you are doing
jardín
with
es algo que
children.
es bonito porque los
I
estás
think it's
motivando a ellos
nice
a que
because you're
busquen áreas verdes
motivating them to
principalmente
try to
y cultiven
find
lo
green
natural y orgánico.
areas, especially to be in contact with nature.
Buenas tardes a todos. Pues,
Good afternoon,
nomás quería
everyone.
platicarles
I
un
just
poquito de
wanted
lo
to
que
mention
ha
a little
estado
bit of
haciendo
what
Naomi pues con la
Naomi
comunidad,
has
con
been
todos
doing with
nosotros,
our
con las
community
familias,
and
con
all
los
of
niños.
us, with the families
Pues
and the
sí, pudimos
children.
lograr de
Yes,
poder
we
tener
were
un
able
jardín
to have
donde
a
podemos
community
plantar
garden
nuestras verduras y
where we
unas
can
frutas
have
también
a couple of
sin
vegetables, some
químicos
fruits
y también
without any
ayudando al medio
chemicals,
ambiente,
and also
que es lo que a
helping
mí
the
me gusta mucho y
environment.
así
That's
también
what I
poder
like
ayudar
a lot. So
a,
I can
a mi
also
familia
help my
sin
family,
químicos y ayudando al
no
medio ambiente más
chemicals,
que nada.
and helping the environment.
Y le doy las gracias a
And
Naomi
I want
Martínez
to
porque ella
thank
es la que nos
Naomi
ayudó
Martinez because
a
she's the
llevar todo
one
esto a cabo.
that helped us to do all
Estoy muy
of this.
contenta con el
I'm very
jardín.
happy with
Para
the
mí
garden.
es
For
algo
me,
como un sueño, ¿verdad?
it's like a
Y
dream,
pues
you
muchas
know?
gracias a
So
Naomi.
thank you very much,
Estamos muy
Naomi.
contentos todos los
We are very happy.
que tenemos cada jardín, cada familia.
with these community
Y también
gardens. We're
quisiera
very happy.
comentar
Thank
algo
you.
sobre lo de ¿cómo es eso de los incentivos de los
I also
carros?
wanted
Cuando,
to
por
ask about
ejemplo,
this
yo tengo mi carro, ¿verdad?
cars incentives. For example, if I
Primero
have my
tengo que ir con el
vehicle,
mecánico
first
a
I
que
have to go
revise
to the
el
mechanic
carro, qué es lo que
to
tiene
review
para
my
que pueda
vehicle
pasar
to
el
see what's
smog,
the
o
issue, and
primero
then
voy
they
con
can pass the
ustedes
smoke
para
test,
que
or first do
ustedes
I have to go to you
me
so
ayuden
you
a
can
pagar la
help
reparación
me
del carro, o
to
cómo es
pay
que
for
puedo
my
yo hacer
vehicle
eso?
repair? How does that work?
Stella, good to hear from you. So there's two options. So there are the in-person events, which they just had in November, but the other option is there's a list of facilities that do a small check, like they test the emissions from your car. If your car doesn't pass, then you would get the voucher right there from them. So, or you would get that voucher, for those repairs. And so we can, reach out to you and help you, with that process if you want, and or if you have any questions. So we can reach out to you tomorrow.
Me gustaría que pudieran enviarnos los
I would
lugares
like
donde
to
podemos
have
ir
the
a
list
hacer
of
eso,
those
porque pues
facilities, like the
no
places
está
where we can
muy,
go to do that,
pues no tengo esa información
because I
como de
don't
decir,
have that
voy a ir a este lugar
information.
porque este lugar
Like,
está
I'm
conectado
going to
con
go to this
ustedes.
place because this
Necesito saber
place
qué
is
son los
authorized by
lugares que
you.
están conectados
I want to know
para
what
yo
are those
poder ir a
places
esos lugares y
so I
así se
can
pueda
go
hacer
there.
todo el proceso.
Okay.
So we can do like this whole process.
Okay. We will get that to you tomorrow.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Amy, thank you, Ryan, for the speedy action item of reaching back to Estela. And Estela, thank you so much for sharing. It's so inspiring to hear that you all have launched your community garden and that you all are involved in it. And it sounds like the garden will soon be thriving, especially with this rain coming in. With that said, this closes this 5-year milestone of AB 617 being implemented in the South Central.
No sin antes anunciar, perdón, Ani.
Oh,
No
perdón.
sin antes anunciar
I'm
también
sorry,
que
not
Nayamin ha
without
hecho un
saying
trabajo
that
formidable, no
Nayamin has
solamente aquí en
done some
Fresno,
amazing
saben
work,
ustedes
not
que
just
también
here
abrió un
at
jardín
Fresno, but
comunitario
she
el área
also
de
opened a
Cantúa, y te lo
community
digo
garden in
porque los
Caltua, and I'm
líderes de
telling you
Cantúa
this
también me lo
because the
dejaron saber,
Cantua
parecido a
leaders
una
also
escuela,
told me
hicieron un jardín
that within a
comunitario,
school they
entonces es algo
have
que
a
está
community
motivando
garden
más
now. It's something
a
that is
líderes de la
motivating
comunidad y del
leaders
área
within the
rural, y
community
por
and in
eso
the rural
celebraron,
area. And
festejaron
that's why
y
they
ganó el
celebrate,
premio a
and she
Irving
won
en
at
Sacramento,
Irving in
antier de ayer estuvo
Sacramento.
allá y qué
Yesterday she
bonito
was
mirar que
there,
todo el
and
Senado
it's
y
very
la
nice to see
Asamblea
that the
la
Senate
reconocieron por su
and the
esfuerzo a una de
Assembly
las ganadoras y es algo que
recognize all
tenemos que
her
celebrar
effort.
con ella
It's
porque
something that
es
we
una
need to
campeona
celebrate
aquí
with
en el
her
Valle
because
Central, la
I think
verdad.
she's a
Felicidades a
champion in
Nayamin,
the
que por ahí
Central
no está
Valley. So
aquí, pero aquí
congratulations
la
to
tenemos
Nayamin.
presente y solamente con
Even though
honrarla.
she's not here, I just wanted to mention that. She deserves it.
Thank you so much for adding that. Lidia, I appreciate you, and you never have to apologize for adding more comments and sharing stories, and mostly when it's someone in the community that's getting recognized at the state level or at any level. Really appreciate you sharing that update, and I'm sure Naomi will be delighted when she listens to the recording. So as I was saying, we are closing up on our officially reaching the 5th year milestone of implementation. And before we close out, I'd like to invite any other CSC members that have anything else to say before we pass it to the Air District. And I see Estela has her hand raised. Is that a new hand? No. Yes. Estela, I saw your hand go up and down real quick.
Sí, y también quisiera decirles,
Yes, I also want to
invitarlos también que
invite you.
vamos a tener un
We're going
evento
to
para el
have
Día de las
an
Mamás en
event
nuestro jardín
for
para que
Mother's
así puedan
Day in
mirar
our
todo lo que
garden.
vamos a tener de verduras,
So you
vamos a
can go
tener
and see if we're going to
flores
offer
para el Día de las Mamás.
vegetables,
Esperamos
flowers
que
for
pues
Mother's
puedan
Day. So let's hope that
colaborar con
you
nosotros
can
y apoyarnos.
collaborate with us and support us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we'll work with the Air District to include that in the updates that get sent as part of the follow-up from today's meeting so that we have that information included. And per usual, you'll get all of the updates and action items will be sent via email so that you'll have those. And they get posted on the website. All of the processes that have been established will continue on. It's just that we won't meet until May 14th. So with that said, I will pass it to Ryan for any concluding remarks before we close out today's meeting.
No, just once again, thank you for everybody. Really appreciate California Research Board staff for putting together a presentation and being here tonight. And I thank Kelly from the city for being here and answering questions and participating. And to all of the community steering committee members, thank you so much. Have a wonderful night and hope for a good rain and lots of snow. And
Bendiciones a todos. Buenas noches.
night.
Bye.
Buenas noches a todos.
Gracias, que pasan buenas noches.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Oh yeah, thank you obviously to Harder and the wonderful facilitation and to Tanya.
Thank you, Tanya and Diana.
I apologize.
Yes, thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Good job, Zong and Nancy.
All right, good night, everyone.